Back doors open there for Josh Boone. It's a tie ball game again. Anthony for three. Pass ahead to Ferguson. He's fouled that one.
This is nasty. He was going to dunk that.
Cutter ran back on the deck. And we've got a 2-point game with 6.5 minutes remaining in regulation. Ware for the lead. He's got it for three. On the basketball under pressure. Boone underneath. It's blocked by Eustace. Where'd he come from? Prather bobbled up in the corner. He looks at the rim. Into traffic. It's blocked again. And the Thunder win.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. Hashtag NBL Rewind is where we have all watched a particular game and we get to chat about it. Liam Santamaria is here. Hello, buddy.
How you going, mate?
I'm excited. I'm excited because I'm loving going back. And this one, we don't even have to go back too far, but it is part of something, of course, that has become really exciting in the last couple of years with the NBA v NBL games. And we're going to go to a game that is today. I'm not saying it's not going to change sometime soon, but today, the closest an NBL team has come to beating an NBA franchise. It's Melbourne United and the Oklahoma City Thunder. And Dean Vickerman, head coach of Melbourne United now, and then joins us. Hello, Vicko.
How you going?
Well, I tell you this, I don't know how it is when you're a competitive beast like you are, but to go back and watch this game for myself and probably for Liam as well, it was just as fun now as it was watching it. Well, I was on the couch at the time. I know you've gone back and watched it. What'd you think?
Oh yeah, it was a range of emotion come back when I watched it. Even the thought of how putting that team together, it was kind of crazy going from Adelaide where Chris had just had his appendix burst. Hooley hurt himself in practice, bringing in a couple of Americans. And I thought the funniest one was Dylan Stith, who was practicing with us. And then he's like, "Hey, I'm going to be in America at that time. You think I'd come over and watch the game? Because I've never been to an NBA game." I was like, "Why don't you come over and play?" And he's like, "Oh, great." So, I got him in for a couple of minutes there, but, it was kind of that situation. We're trying to throw a team together and we're going against, a serious NBA contender. And it was fun. Yeah.
Hey, and just on that, of course.
Cam, can I just chime in though? Because you kind of spoke for me before and said it was just as much fun watching it this time as it was then. And I'm going to say, no way, not at all. I actually found it quite hard to rewatch because at the time, I can't recall having a more fun game watching because it was like hanging close. Oh my God, have a chance to win. The excitement was sky high. But watching it back, knowing it was a 1-point result, all the little missed box outs or the little missed layups in the fourth quarter were like little gut punches because, as we know, we haven't, we've had a whole bunch of games since, have never been that close before. And you think that could have been a win.
Oh yeah, there's certainly that emotion watching it back, and I was kind of look at their scores in the fourth quarter. And I was like, wow, and I looked at the box score. And I was like, we held them to 16 points in the fourth quarter, and I think they only made 3 field goals or something like that. A lot of it came from the foul line as well, and they didn't score for the last 2:43 or something like that. We did everything we could defensively to go ahead and get that win. And the thing that I couldn't remember, I was like, watching it, and the video that I had all the timeouts and everything cut out. It was just had the vision. I was like, I can't remember if I had a timeout on that last 5 seconds. I had to research and went back and I was like, yeah, we did. And looking at that, looking at the last play, which I'm sure we'll look at today at some stage. But the group we had on the floor and just reliving all those kind of things that go through your mind at that time.
You mentioned defensively and the fourth quarter, of course, with the stat you just said there, but also in late plays, the score was 86-85 and it stayed that way for the last number of minutes. But the trademark defensive unit that you had, which led you to that championship, 6 or so months later, while it probably wasn't at its top in that particular part, you could already see a fair bit of how well they were working together to stop an insanely talented NBA team.
Yeah, Casper and Booney had a great connection in their on-ball defense. I think we played DA and Ty Wesley and kind of split minutes a little bit at the 4. We were kind of a little bit different at the 3. We had Barlow and he kind of matched up NBA size at the 3 spot, and Casey at the 2, and Casey, he had some battles with Paul George and Casper and Westbrook in the post. There was a lot of post isolations. Those guys handled themselves very well. I think Casper got 2 pull the chairs in the first quarter on Westbrook, and there was some fun defensive elements as well.
Vico, this game is kind of celebrated amongst NBL people for how close we came to beating an NBA team, how it put us on the map, how it really led to more and more of these NBL, NBA games. But I wonder, like, when you look back on it and think back on it, you think back on like winning a championship, it's all good feelings. Some things went wrong, but it's just a celebration in your mind. When you think back on this, is it one that got away?
Oh, without a doubt. You feel that one that got away. And I've probably replayed those last 2 possessions so many times. Was it a goaltend? I watched it again today. I was like, no, it wasn't a goaltend.
Nah.
That was fine. Was it a foul? Oh, he connected on his arm, but it's probably not enough to call it. And then the last play, seeing Case drive in there and some other people open up. We had Andre Dawkins, and he's wide open at the 3-point line. And that's what we had him in there for. And just the ability to go ahead and make one more pass and get an open look to win or lose on that one rather than something contested.
First thoughts, Liam, for me too, and this is something that now there's a norm in the NBL, but this is almost a debut of you being an incredibly well-dressed coach, Dino. I'm not saying you weren't well-dressed in the past. Yeah, well,
come on, mate. I was a polo guy pretty much before this. I had to dress it up for this one.
He went to that new level.
Dean Vickerman in his first season as the head coach of United.
I like that jacket. See that jacket? That's a beautiful color.
That's a possibility for your wardrobe.
And it's now become a bit of a norm in the NBL, and probably give a shout out to, I think is it menswear, Vico? Have I got that right?
Men's club.
Men's club. My apologies, men's club. But that was, you rocked it out. And that's one of the first things that, again, hits me when I was watching the game in the last day or two. Because, you were rocking some nice threads, and it's continued to this day.
I've battled in the summer league to continue to wear the jackets, but and they get thrown off pretty early. So, but I thank Men's Club for the clothes that they put me in. They certainly make me look better than the country kid that I am.
First thoughts for me, Cam, was just the feeling, and it crept up on me watching the game at the time. But that feeling of, oh shit, the shot clock's off.
Mm-hmm.
And we got the ball. We got a chance to win the game. 1 point down, shot clock's off with the ball. And that feeling like, oh my God, like it's in our hands now as an NBL team. And then obviously the ball got kind of caught. Timeout was called from the weak side. Vico, that feeling for you when all of a sudden that was a stop and it was down 1, shot clock off with the ball? Did you want the timeout? Did that feeling creep up on you?
Yeah, I think, did Andre Dawkins call it? I think he did. He was standing right next to the referee there, and I think he called timeout. And I remember Casey looking back at him like, "Oh, why'd we call timeout?" Because he got out of the trap and threw it to Booney, and there was a couple of people open after he did that. And so, yeah, that's just how the NBA works. So, he made that call, and it was probably a good call in that regard to use the clock better. And we put Booney and Casper in that pick and roll, and Casper made a great pass.
Yeah.
And, could have. And Booney did such a great job in the fourth quarter of making short roll catches and then making extra passes. And a lot of those led to Casper's threes in that fourth quarter. And that one, he decided to make a play on, which was fair enough.
Hey, doing NBL Rewind, because the NBL rules, as you would know, used to be able to call a timeout on the floor, and then this situation. Would you like to see that come back into the NBL?
Probably not. No, I think, I like the international rules on that one. I think, the battles we had in those games those timeouts were ridiculously long. I think, and Tony Ronzone sitting right next to us and saying, "Hey, Dino, this one's a 2.5-minute timeout." And it's like, "Oh, we'll go talk to the coaches for a little bit," and then we go and have a chat, and then we're still coming out of those things with like a minute left, and those were difficult to deal with. Some of those timeouts, as you start telling jokes and different things, talking to the coaches and making up stuff and different things. But I like where we're at. I don't think that adds to the spectacle of our game if we add that timeout on the floor.
Vico, you spoke about the the prep leading up to the game, putting the team together, and Chris with the appendicitis and Pete with the injury. We had Westbrook saying, "I ain't expecting shit about this team," added to kind of the build up. What about? Did you guys have the Oklahoma City Ghost?
Yeah. The hotel that we stay at, there's definitely reports of it being haunted. Vince has got a good haunted story, so he believes there was some stuff happened around his room and in the hallway, and he's searching for ghosts a little bit that night. So you might have to get him on to talk about that one at some stage. It was kind of crazy, and then the timeline of being there. One little quick practice, trying to get on a timeline that was totally different, coming from Adelaide, and do you sleep, do you not sleep, trying to work out all those things. And the one thing I do remember of that trip was, using Dave Anderson and Josh Boone. Simon and Mike had done their kind of normal scout as they would for a game in preparation, but I really handed over the pre-game speech to DA and Booney, just their NBA experience, and hey, just tell everyone what to expect tonight. And I remember us coming out just kind of calm and confident, still a little bit of anxiety, but those guys did a great job of preparing the team for the NBA experience.
First minute and a half, they come out, I think they scored the first 8 points. And it was the second game that had already been, and I think Liam mentioned it earlier, the fact that you played so well and this was a contest definitely adds to it being able to be a fixture and a staple in probably a non-coronavirus year where, hey, you know what? This is real competition. We're not, NBA teams aren't winning by 60 and it's a waste of time for all. So that first minute or two, they hit a couple of threes and it's like, geez, this isn't a great start. But you're able to pretty quickly find, I guess that even keel of, hey, you know what? We're in this competition. Ty Wesley, who I think we'll get to a little bit later on because he was brilliant, hits a little jumper. And it just seems like it settles the nerves for everyone.
Absolutely. Watching that first quarter back, Melo hit those 2 threes. I think Westbrook might have got something early as well. 8-0. It's like, oof. And then Wes in a 2-man game hits a little pick and pop jumper just to calm everybody. And then Casper comes back and hits a couple of transition threes after that to get us going. That's where I learned a little bit about Casper and Drew League Casper. And he had some special shoes made up that had Drew League Casper on them. And they were quite an amazing pair of Nikes that he got to wear for that game. But then I was talking to him about what Westbrook said. And then you start to learn. It's like, wow, this has really motivated him. We're going to get the Drew League Casper. We got his family's in town, and he's going to go out to show everybody tonight and start to learn about never ever trying to talk shit to Casper Ware. And he reminded me of it in the semi-final series this year. And I think I said something to Sean Bruce, and he looked at him and he said, "Dino, you don't want to fire me up." I was like, yeah, you're right. I'm not going to say anything right now.
Hey, but it wasn't just the shots Casper was hitting. Obviously, that massive one in front of their bench when he got that little hippity-hoppity in his step after he hit it. But his D on Westbrook, and this is what made Casper Ware so special over the last 3 or 4 years in the NBL, is how good he was at both ends of the floor. But this is one of the things that stood out to me most watching this game was his defensive effort on the man who was at that time the reigning MVP.
Oh, without a doubt. Just seeing him picking him up full court early and just seeing a little bit of frustration from Westbrook. And you just kind of look at their pickup points to our pickup points and then, talking about our on-ball defense to say, we don't really want to change too much. Let's get out and show these guys, where they're used to dealing with drop situations a lot. And Let's go and be who we are. And they didn't like it so much. They didn't like the way that we defended. And we didn't really worry about illegal defense or any of those things too much. It's like, yeah, we're aware of it. If you feel like you're in the lane too long, jump back out. But just go ahead and get to the split line and bump cutters and hit people and do all the normal things that we normally do in our league. But yeah, Casper got after that. And it was great to just see that he could pull the chair on anyone in the post in the world, you know. And Westbrook still got some of his, but we did a good job of slowing them down. Keeping them under 90 points was impressive.
How good were your bigs? I mean, that trio of Bernie, DA, and Ty, 37 points, 20 boards, 9 assists, and just so much poise throughout that game.
Yeah, we out-rebounded them. Even, Majuk coming in for a couple of minutes as well. And, those three were outstanding. They all scored the ball well, Booney. And then Casey actually come in and I think he had 11 rebounds or something as well. So, I think we won the rebound count like 50-45 or something like that to out-rebound an NBA team. Booney was pretty motivated. He still, at that time, really believed he still belonged in the NBA as well. So he went out to prove something. DA was still trying to prove something, coming back to Melbourne and doing things as well. So they were all motivated. Ty was highly motivated, and I think I look back and I was like, wow, he still turned down a couple of threes that I wanted him to shoot during that game and stuff. But yeah, those three were outstanding.
Just on that game and then the games that have happened since, how as a coach, and of course that time of the year, it's pre-season or maybe even into the year as it was in this particular case, you're trying to get things right, but also finding a little bit of time for the guys who might be a little bit lower in the rotation, for them to experience it as well, because it is a fairly magical experience. How, as a coach, is it easy? Is it hard to find that right balance, or do you not worry about stuff like that?
Yeah, I think I look back at that game as like only Sam Short, that was on our roster. I didn't get into that game, and there was a conscious effort to say, we want to get everybody some time to go ahead and experience this. And so I think we played 13 guys. I think they only played 10 guys. And so yeah, trying to find that balance of making sure everyone got a sense of the experience, and then now we're really competitive and we're trying to win the game. And Dylan Stith got his minutes in the fourth quarter, throw him in. I think he might not have only played until the fourth quarter and different things as well. So, great opportunities for those guys. And I remember why that was so important to me. And I was trying to think back, and for me, as a player with the Melbourne Tigers going on a few US tours in that Christmas period where we used to play colleges, and I was like, one of the best games I ever played, or most memorable games, was playing Alonzo Mourning and Mutombo at Georgetown. And was it Mutombo? I don't know. Who were the two bigs?
Mourning and Mutombo were there together.
Mourning and Mutombo. And playing those two guys, and Steve Whitehead give him 20, and one of my mates going off, and those kind of experiences were unbelievable.
Well, one of the superstars you played against in this game was Carmelo Anthony, and we've seen him. I think we saw him just prior, maybe the year before in Rio, when the Boomers were kind of making things interesting against the US. He just went whackety whack whack and put that game away. And I felt like in this game as well, in the third quarter, he became a bit more of a problem.
Absolutely. He got him that 10-point margin, and we faced that first one of the 8-0, and then now he's going to put us another 10-point margin in us. And I think those are in the NBA games that we've seen since that time. You got to have 2 or 3 moments where you have these serious fight backs, where a 10-point margin can become a 20-point margin, or you have the ability to keep it close. And both times in that game we were able to turn it around. But yeah, Melo was great the whole game. Like, he was talking to us on the bench. His respect for international basketball before it was totally different to Westbrook. And he had a great respect for international game.
It's funny you mentioned Westbrook there in his comments that Liam mentioned earlier, and you mentioned about them only playing 10 players. I have no doubt, and even watching it back, They thought they'd blow you out, be 25 up at quarter time, and we'll just play as many guys. Hey, Russ, you won't play after quarter time. You'll just play 9 minutes. Camelo, you won't have to do much. Paul George, you just take it easy. And that it just felt like that's what it was like. And lead up with some of the comments and then the way that the game ended up panning out, you talk about the physicality and the rebounding edge that you guys had. It 100% took them by surprise. Is that how it felt within the – before we go any further, were you there, Liam, or you were here?
No, I was here. I was
so,
losing my biscuits in the lounge room.
Yeah. So is that how it felt in the arena? Because even through on the replay, you get that little murmur from the crowd. They thought they were just rolling in, see some of their players play a couple of minutes, and then they're like, "Shit, we could lose this."
Yeah, I think that's what we were proud of. We had some intel, from them before the game to say, they're not going to play any of their starters after three-quarter time.
Mm.
And I think we might have even mentioned it, or someone mentioned it in one of those timeouts when we were 10 down in the third quarter. It's like, hey, let's go. Let's make these boys have to play in the fourth quarter. And, that was one of our motivations, to keep those guys out there on the floor. We wanted to play against their best. We wanted to try and beat their best. And to, I think Westbrook sat out some of the fourth quarter, but they had to bring him back at a point to go ahead and win the basketball game. So that was, that was one of the ticks from that game for us, that we made, their best have to. I think Paul George played 37 minutes, and their other starters were 26 to 30 as well. So that was one of the highlights of that game.
My favorite moments of the game were obviously Casper pulling the chair twice. Then he got that charge in transition on Westbrook. So the fact that he was frustrating Westbrook. Ty Wesley drawing double teams in the block. Steven Adams coming over and just setting up Josh Boone under the bucket a couple of times. It reminded me of how great that combination was and what great harmony those two guys had. And obviously Casper hitting those threes late. But the best moment for me was Kyle Adnam sticking the triple with no hesitation in Melo's grill like he does it every other day.
Yeah, that was I got to see that. When you watch something, you're like, wow, that was amazing. But then you need to go back and watch everybody else's reactions. That was one of those moments for me. And I went back, and then one of, I think it was Antonius Cleveland that we picked up, and he's just kind of spun in circles on the bench, like, whoa, he got him. And, just having those little moments where it's like, Kyle wasn't expected to do that kind of thing from a lot of people, and he goes ahead and does it. And that's what you love about him. He's fearless, and he's going to take shots.
Hey, you end up winning the championship. How much do you think, a little bit away, it's obviously you played that game in Adelaide, you had some injuries, and Chris Golding in particular with the appendicitis, and then the travel schedule early, it was pretty rough for Melbourne United in that year, but coming together, being a part of that, spending some time on the road in a bonding type of way, how much do you reckon it contributed, if at all, to what happened later in the year?
Yeah, it was just a really positive experience, going over there, competing, having a chance to win, different people feeling a greater respect for their own game, to say, wow, I go to Paul George and I felt okay, or I went by somebody and I made a shot. Everyone just had those little moments to take home. And the adversity of Chris not being there, Pooley, then to Casey Prather going down. It was a group that handled adversity really well.
If Chris Golding plays that game, do you win it?
You would love to say yes. You'd love to say that Casey Prather had a little bit more trust in Chris Golding to pitch that one to him and to make that play. But, he was really disappointed to miss out, but he was so proud of the team. And it was great to go back and just see how well he competed, in the most recent games in the NBA, and just how, his game really transferred to be, an elite shooter and scorer on the world stage.
So that's a yes?
That's a yes. That's a yes.
I'm pretty sure that's a yes.
Andre Dawkins or Chris Golding on the floor at the end there, I'm having Chris Golding.
All right.
Well, what about that? Can we get into the last play?
Let's do it.
What did you draw up in the timeout? You said, you drew up pick and roll with Casper and Josh. That was working well. Everybody else spaced the floor. Watching that play and then the one off the baseline over again. What did you see then, and what do you see differently now?
Yeah. The first one I liked. I thought we got time. I think going back out into that last one, I think someone threw out, it's like, oh, they've got fouls to give or something like that. There was that moment of, oh, you know, if it comes in early and they foul, who do we actually want to catch the basketball? And I think we were thinking about switching, you know, having Casper make that first catch versus Casey and different things as well. But having Andre on the floor at that time as well, who didn't know all our stuff and our special plays, we had to keep it pretty simple. So, yeah, brought Casey off a stagger. I think we talked about, you know, curling him to the rim if they didn't switch it. And then throwing into Josh and letting Casper come off Josh and to go ahead and make that last play. But, yeah, Steve Adams switched out. We got, you know, a situation to say that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you look back at it and you say he had a great step back on Steve if he wanted it. And he had the extra pass if he wanted it as well. So, yeah, there were some good opportunities, but we certainly hadn't been in those situations against the NBA. I think in the NBL, Casey Prather driving in the lane and making a decision at the rim would have been a pretty good shot.
Do you wish you had to put up the floater?
Yeah, I think the step back would have been good for him. I think he certainly would have got that one off if he just, you know, got some separation because there was a big hole there. There's a massive hole when you look at it because Steve
those athletes, it just closes so quick.
Yeah. And Steve kind of overplayed it a little bit the pass, and I thought that early one, if he got to the elbow, made a pull-up jumper, he was good.
Anytime, and you mentioned it already, anytime you lose a game by a point and you're in it, it's obviously going to be some disappointment. How long did it take for yourself and the group to like look back and a little bit of pride on how well you'd played and some of the, I guess, positives you can take out of it? I'm not saying it would have been 5 or 10 minutes, but at some point you would have realized you'd made the whole country proud. You'd helped the NBL continue to solidify their reputation in world basketball and actually like, you know what, we lost the game, but it's not all doom and gloom. How long was that?
No, it took a while. It was, you know, until, you know, Vince and those guys chatted to us a while afterwards to say, you know, the goal was to really make sure we were competitive. You know, there was still some uncertainty about how our league would compete against the NBA. And so, you know, we'd done something good for our league, certainly gained reputation for our club, but as a league, we want these to continue. We want other people to experience what we experienced. And so we gave future generations or, you know, future teams the opportunity to go over there and compete because we were competitive. Once that sunk in a little bit, you're able to get over the loss a little easier.
I'll tell you what it has done too, Vico, and obviously you've been over there the last, you know, 3 NBL seasons, including this. Teams are ready for you. You know, and you've had some really good teams. Of course, Philadelphia and Toronto were really good teams in the 2 years you played them. And obviously when you look at the way that OKC may have had a certain attitude coming in, they don't miss you nowadays. They're ready to go from the opening tip because of what you did and what some of the other NBL teams have done as well since that game. Yeah,
and the Clippers also, you know, I think that's the other one I look back on and say, wow, you know, we're up at halftime on the Clippers at Staples. And then, you know, there's some things happen in the third quarter that we couldn't stop. But, you know, we had our moments in each one of those games. But we just weren't able to have that third quarter like we did in that game where we made the run back. Yeah, good moments. The Toronto one was the worst one for me. Once they got us, they grabbed us and threw us down and stomped on us. But, yeah, the other ones I thought we were pretty competitive in.
Do you feel like an NBL team, if we continue to play these games, a team's going to break through? I mean, you guys were a special unit, right? Went on to win the championship and everyone played particularly well in that game. You didn't have one of your superstars on the floor. You've had those experiences, especially in LA last year where you think, oh, geez, like we're right in this game. Like, do you think a team will break through at some point?
I hope so, you know, but you probably look at it like the national team, right? It's like, let's get them here. Let's get them on our soil. Let's play the game. Let's get that thing done here. You know, it's already shown that you give yourself a much better chance if you can do it at home. So, you know, I hope I see the day where, you know, we're able to get an NBA team out to Melbourne and try and pack out the biggest venue that we can to do that again and show our local product versus an NBA team at home.
We have kind of spoken about it on NBL Overtime, and I think we might even do a McDonald's Open game in NBL Rewind the next couple of weeks, but probably not the right time right now. But there's a good opportunity to have a tournament like that, have some Euro powers, try and entice an NBA team or two down here and have a couple of NBL teams involved. A tournament like that, I think in today's day and age, with social media and the way that we can get access to so many different things, I think it'd be great for the basketball, not only in this country, but all around the world.
Yeah, we want to test ourselves against the best in Europe. We keep talking about, as a league, are we one of the best leagues, right behind the NBA? And we only know that if we get to play them. And I know Larry wants to do that. He wants to, play the best team in Russia. He wants to play the best team in this ACB. But we've got to make it happen. And I think we've explored it a few different times, just trying to find a window to make that happen. With the international windows has become a little bit tougher, but I'm all for it if we can make that happen.
Do you think we'll need to go sort of game-like situation and allow smoking in the stadiums when the power European teams get here, Dino?
Yeah, I haven't experienced. I've been to a few European games, but obviously back in the day where we used to travel to China and to come back after halftime, it's like, why is there just a massive cloud over the court right now? and those kind of experiences. But no, we don't want to do that.
No, I agree. Liam, anything before we wrap it up?
No, man. No, it was an historic game. Wasn't an NBL regular season game, an NBL final, an NBL grand final, but it was one of the most important, I think one of the most important games an NBL team's ever been involved in because, like I said, put us on the map, has resulted in more and more of those games. And I think just lifted everyone involved in the NBL, coaches, executives, players, fans, lifted our confidence as a league to say, actually, our teams are right there.
I kind of thought about, in my office, I need some photos on the wall, and you kind of think about, I've got to have a Kenne's, shot and got to have some of those things. But I actually wanted the last one of Casey driving in there and the decision. I actually want that photo on my wall just to keep thinking about what could have happened, what would you do next. Just keep your mindset when you look at it every day in your office. So yeah, it's an important moment. So it was a fun time, and I'm glad we helped the league gain great respect overseas.
And lastly, before I do let you go, Westbrook, and we spoke about the attitudes and the comments and some from the team before it. What were they like after it?
Great. Obviously Casey, played for coach, and we had a little function after the game where we got something to eat, and a number of their players, coaching staff came through and chatted and were, very hospitable and appreciated, the game that we gave them in preseason. That's what they wanted. They wanted a tough contest, and they got it from us.
See,
Westbrook? Was Westbrook one of those? Westbrook wasn't one of those guys.
I didn't see him. Him and Casper might have had an LA chat somewhere in the hallway, but he certainly didn't come in.
See, traditionally, as I always say, winning solves everything. So it might have been a tad different had you been able to get that last one to go down. But good news, great game, had a lot of fun for everyone out there right now. Hashtag NBL Rewind. If you haven't watched it, NBL TV, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, wherever you watch your NBL content, go back and relive what was a wonderful game back in 2017. Vico, thanks for joining us.
No, thanks for the moment, for the memory.
Vico.
Thanks, see ya.